I'm Shane Morris. As we approach 2020, we want to share with you several of the most popular Breakpoint commentaries from 2019. Here's John Stonestreet with Greta Thunberg and the Cult of Adolescence.
Last week, 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg grabbed top billing with her "How Dare You" climate change speech at the United Nations. In fact, even before Thunberg had been declared the voice of a generation, the ultra-liberal Church of Sweden tweeted that Jesus had appointed her as one of his successors. The international beatification of Thunberg mirrors something we saw in the wake of the Parkland shooting a few years ago, elevating teenage spokespersons for political causes. In at least the cases of Thunberg and the Parkland victims, their activism jettisoned reasoned discourse for melodramatics, complete with screaming and swearing and absent anything that could be considered respecting your elders. The increasing trend to block debate with angry teenage shields is the next step in a culture captivated by what I call the cult of adolescence. Adolescence, as Brett Kunkle and I have written about in our book, A Practical Guide to Culture, is a rather recent innovation in Western society. You see, in most cultures throughout the history of the world, kids went from being kids to being adults. Today, they become adolescents. It's so normal, we actually have come to expect kids to lose their minds during their teenage years. But along the way, two additional things have happened. First, people began to enter adolescence earlier and earlier and are leaving it later and later. In fact, many experts today identify adolescence as the stage of life between ages 11 and 30. And second, adolescence has moved from being a stage of life to being the goal of life. Long gone are the days when grown men and women wished to appear older and wiser. We're now a culture that sees the good life as the ability to be adolescent as long as possible. Now, what does any of this have to do with Greta Thunberg and the students from Parkland? Well, for many people, chronology equals correctness. Beliefs and opinions of kids matter more than adults, not because they're informed or accurate, but simply because they're younger. In a culture captivated by a cult of adolescence, we should do what teenagers like Thunberg or the Parkland activists say and dismiss their tendency toward hysterics and hyperbole, despite the lack of good arguments and evidence, as if youth confers some kind of sainthood and argument immunity. Some conservatives have reacted by telling Greta and other teenage activists to sit down and shut up. One popular podcaster told his audience he has no interest in the political opinions of 16-year-olds because they couldn't possibly know anything of value. Well, this is equally misguided. You see, the core problem with the cult of adolescence is that we are penalizing young image bearers with low expectations. We do this whenever we elevate teen spokespersons without requiring them to know what they're talking about. We also do this when we say that teenagers can't know what they're talking about. Both approaches mistakenly assume this mythological period of life called adolescence actually exists, a time when young people can't be expected to know or to act like grown-ups. In our book, A Practical Guide to Culture, Brett Kunkle and I debunk the myth of adolescence. Young adults should champion big ideas and important causes, and in the process, they should expect to encounter and be ready to answer opposing arguments, something they're fully capable of doing. See, one of the best things we can do for young adults is to respect them enough to expect more of them and of ourselves. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.